What's going on, Trailblazers? Sam here, back at it again for another video. And in today's video, with Kafka's release just about a week out, I wanted to give my thoughts on Kafka and how I think with her release, the meta in Honkai Star Rail is going to take a pretty drastic shift. So let's get into it. Now, in the background, you'll notice I have some simulated universe gameplay. Obviously, this is World 4 against Farog, and I'm using the Path of Nihility. Now, I'm using this gameplay really as my showcase of peak performance DOT. Now, I'm very aware that, in the MOC or pretty much any other instance in Honkai Star Rail, there's no way we're going to be able to do nearly this much DOT. It's not going to be nearly as effective. That being said, if we're able to create DOT teams that do 10%, 20%, 30% as effectiveness as this team, I think that's going to be plenty viable to carry you through a majority of the content in the game. So let's talk about it. So if you weren't aware, there's 4 different types of DOT in HSR. There's bleed, which is DOT that's implanted by physical characters. There's shock, which is DOT implanted by lightning characters. There's wind shear, which is DOT implanted by wind characters. And then there's burn, which is DOT implanted by fire characters. Now, what's really interesting about Honkai Star Rail DOT is that different versions of DOT can operate simultaneously. So you can have an enemy afflicted by shock, by wind shear, by burn, what have you, etc. And also, what's very interesting is there's technically 2 different types of DOT. Now, the first DOT, I'm just going to kind of call it normal or standard DOT. This is just when you hit an enemy with, let's say, for instance, Serval. You hit them with Serval and a lightning ability. They have a base percentage chance to get afflicted by shock. Now, if you hit an enemy that's also weak to lightning and you break them with Serval, they also can get what's called break effect DOT. Now, what's really unique, like I said, both of these can operate simultaneously. So as you'll see, Svarog has the standard shock. He also has the break shock, and then he has the wind shear. And it stacks multiplicatively, also scales off attack, also scales off your character's level. So it's very important that you make sure that when Kafka comes out, you'll probably want to get her to level 80, similar vein to, Elemental Mastery in Genshin Impact. So you'll see that damage over time, when you get enemies afflicted by different types of DOT, it can scale drastically. And I know that there's no way it's going to be able to do nearly as much damage as Simulated Universe. But like I said, if we're able to create teams that have 10, 20% as effectiveness, I think it's going to be very reasonable and very strong. And specifically, I think it's going to be really good for free-to-play players. So if you're free-to-play and you missed out on Sela, you missed out on Jing Yuan, you missed out on Blade, and you don't have Yang Xing, really you don't have any of the top tier DPSs, I really think Kafka and DOT could be your catalyst and tool to clear a lot of the MOC content very, very easily for you. And I know that we get, myself included, so caught up in, damage per screenshot and going for a million damage, but for 99% of the player base, that's not realistic. But if you're able to create a damage over time team that can essentially, tick down the enemy turn over turn, I think that's going to be very viable. And, we're just scratching the surface over damage over time. Kafka will undoubtedly be the queen of DOT, but, we only have Sampo, we only have Serval, we only have Luca. These are going to be like the early cast of characters for damage over time. As the game expands, we're going to get more characters. We're going to get more light cones. We're going to get, we're going to get dedicated supports for damage over time. I just think the possibilities are endless, and I really think that, if you're not bought into kind of the sexiness of damage over time because it's not doing so much damage per screenshot, I think you should really think about implementing a new playstyle. Personally, I really like damage over time. I played World of Warcraft, and it was one of my favorite archetypes, just kind of ticking down the enemy and watching them kind of essentially hurt themselves because I'm pretty sure I mentioned, but damage over time in Honkai Star Rail affects every turn. So anytime the enemy takes a turn, depending on whatever affliction they have, they're going to receive damage for that. And also with Kafka, with her abilities and the way she plays, you're going to want to build a lot of speed on her, because anytime she hits an enemy afflicted with DOT, she's going to proc that DOT, which is just nuts. So as long as you stack a ton of speed on Kafka, you give her a ton of attack, you get her to level 80, you pair her with Serval, you pair her with Sampo, or you pair her with Luca, I'm telling you, bro, it's gonna be nutty. Just mark my words. So that's pretty much it. I really just wanted to kind of break down, Honkai Star Rail's damage over time gameplay as best I could. Obviously, I didn't go as far into details with the mathematics, but I just think from a high level view, this is going to be a really good and strong playstyle, specifically for free to play players. I think if you're so caught up on and doing maximum damage every turn, I think you should. But if you're supplementally still struggling in MOC, I think you should consider looking into Kafka and damage over time as a different avenue for clearing the end game content. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to, like I said, give my opinion on DOT and Kafka as a whole. I myself am definitely summoning for her. Not only is she waifu number one and mommy, but like I said, I really like the damage over time playstyle. I think it's going to be really strong in HSR when she releases, and also in the foreseeable future. But that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys so much. Comment down below. Are you going for Mommy Kafka? Are you as excited about kind of the DOT meta? Do you think it's going to be as good, or do you think these single target and AoE damage dealers are just going to be so much stronger than damage over time that it's not really worth your precious jade? So that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.